good evening. Wherever you are, however your day has gone, now is the time to let your thoughts drift softly away. To another time, and another place. Let your body relax. Let your breath slow down. And allow your mind to step gently into the warm, golden world of ancient Egypt, not the grand temples or towering pyramids you may imagine, but something simpler, quieter. Tonight, we are not in the halls of pharaohs, but in a little fishing village along the calm edges of the Nile. This is a place where the air is warm and still, where boats drift lazily across shallow waters, where barefoot children play among reeds, and life flows slowly, in rhythm with the river. There is no hurry here. Only soft laughter, the steady splash of oars, the smell of fresh fish roasting over coals, and the songs of villagers working beneath the sun. So, rest now. And let us journey back into the gentle daily life of an Egyptian fishing village. Thousands of years ago, the first light of morning stretches across the smooth water of the Nile, casting long, golden reflections that shimmer like silk. A pale mist lingers over the marshes, softening the edges of the tall papyrus reeds that sway gently in the morning breeze. The world is quiet. Only the chirping of ibis and the rustle of waterfowl disturb the silence. Far off, a low, wooden boat creaks as it rocks against a reed dock, its hull gently bumping with each tiny wave. In a cluster of mud brick homes nestled close to the shore, a young fisherman opens his eyes. His name is Casey. He's been a fisherman, like his father and grandfather before him. The house is cool and dim, with walls made of dried Nile mud mixed with straw, shaped by hand and baked by the sun. He rises slowly, listening to the morning sounds, chickens stirring, the crackling of a small fire, and the low murmur of his mother, already awake and grinding barley. He steps outside barefoot. The ground is smooth, hardened by years of footsteps. A few goats bleat quietly as a sleepy dog stretches under a woven mat roof. The village is small, just a few dozen homes clustered together, with paths of packed earth winding between gardens, storage huts, and fish drying racks. The air smells of damp earth, wood smoke, and river water. And in the distance, the Nile sparkles, wide and calm. Today, like every day, Casey will go fishing. He will paddle out onto the river, cast his net, and hope the gods bless him with a good catch. But there is no rush. Time flows slowly here, just like the water. Inside the family courtyard, Casey's mother places a warm flatbread on a clay plate. She's already boiled some lentils with onions, flavored with herbs from the garden, mint, coriander, a touch of garlic. Breakfast is simple, but nourishing. Casey eats quietly beside his younger sister, Nanu, who's braiding a doll from leftover palm fibers. There's no formal dining here. Just soft woven mats on the ground, clay cups of river water, and the slow rhythm of shared meals. Afterward, Casey takes a short walk through the village to gather his fishing gear. Along the way, he passes the basket maker's hut, an elderly man named Menka, who sits cross-legged in the shade, weaving reeds with practiced hands. Menka greets Casey with a nod and a smile, never breaking his rhythm. Further on, a pair of boys push a wooden hoop with sticks, laughing as they chase it down the path. Casey stops by the river edge, where his narrow wooden canoe waits. It's been patched many times, sealed with pitch, reinforced with reeds. His net is coiled carefully inside, a wide circle of woven flax rope, knotted in a traditional pattern passed down for generations. Before he leaves, Casey kneels at the edge of the water. He scoops a handful, lifts it to the sky, and murmurs a short prayer to Hapi, the god of the Nile. May the river be kind today. May the fish be plenty. May the boat return safe. Then, with quiet strength, he pushes off from the shore, and glides into the morning. The boat moves smoothly across the water. Casey sits low, his legs folded beneath him, steering with a short paddle carved from sycamore wood. The river is wide here, lined with reeds and low marshy islands. Birds fly overhead, herons, ibises, and the occasional sacred falcon gliding far above. Sometimes he sees crocodiles basking on the shore, their scaly backs half buried in mud. But today, the river is calm. A pair of hippos snort and roll in the distance, ignoring the small boat drifting past. Casey paddles quietly to a spot he knows well, a deep bend where fish like to gather beneath the lilies. He sets his paddle down, unwraps the net, and tosses it wide. It lands with a soft splash, then sinks slowly, weighted with small stones. He waits. No sound, no movement. Only the river. He hums softly, a tune his father taught him, one that reminds the fish to come. His hands rest on the edge of the boat, and his eyes drift over the horizon. There is no time here. Only the water, and the sky, and the breath between them. Casey sits still in his boat. The net has disappeared beneath the surface, anchored by small clay weights, woven carefully with care and experience. It is the kind of net that takes days to make, twisted by hand, with strong, fine fibers soaked in the river for flexibility. He rests his hands in his lap, his fingers lightly stained with flax fibers and river silt. The only sound is the slow creak of the wood beneath him and the soft slap of water against the canoe's side. Time drips slowly. Tiny dragonflies dance just above the waterline, their gossamer wings catching the morning sun. They hover for a moment, shimmer, and vanish among the reeds. A turtle's head bobs up near the canoe, its eyes blinking with a kind of eternal patience, then it disappears again beneath the surface, leaving only a ripple behind. Casey watches everything with calm eyes. He is used to silence. The rhythm of the river is the rhythm of his life. Waiting, watching, listening. He leans forward, pulls the net gently, slowly, checking its weight. With a practiced motion, he hauls it over the side. This time, the net comes up heavy. Inside, the shimmer of silver, tilapia, catfish, and tiny river smelts, all tangled and squirming. Some flap and splash, but he handles them with care, gently freeing each one and laying them in a basket lined with damp reeds. It is a good catch. He smiles softly to himself. The gods have been kind today. By midday, the sun climbs high overhead, casting long shadows and heating the earth until it smells of dust and dry grass. Casey guides his canoe back to the edge of the village. The dock is no more than a cluster of worn logs tied together with ropes of papyrus and reeds, secured to a tree trunk. It groans softly as he ties his boat and lifts the basket of fish over his shoulder. Children meet him on the path, their bare feet kicking up little clouds of dust. They ask if he saw crocodiles, or hippos, or the strange white heron that follows fishermen from time to time. Casey answers softly, always with a smile, telling them what the river told him today. The village is more alive now. Women carry water from the Nile in rounded pottery jugs, balanced carefully on their heads, their long linen dresses fluttering in the warm breeze. Some walk with children clinging to their legs, others with woven baskets full of river greens or fresh baked bread. Smoke curls from cook fires. In shaded courtyards, lentils bubble in clay pots, and thin fish dry on racks, hanging from wooden pegs like silver ribbons. Casey walks slowly past the elders seated beneath a broad acacia tree, their faces lined with wisdom, their eyes half closed in the heat. They nod to him, content in the rhythm of the day. Casey enters his family courtyard through a low wooden gate tied together with rope and vine. His mother is already preparing lunch, a stew of chickpeas and fish, gently simmering in a wide, round pot over hot coals. He greets her quietly, placing the morning's catch in a wide clay bowl filled with cool water. His sister Nanu helps scale the fish with a smooth stone, humming to herself. The courtyard smells of earth and herbs, dried mint, crushed coriander, a hint of lemony tamarind. Lunch is shared in the shade, on woven mats that smell faintly of river grass. They eat with their fingers, dipping flatbread into the stew, sipping sour date beer from small clay cups. There is no rush. Conversation is soft. The murmur of the village continues beyond the courtyard walls, a baby crying in the distance, goats bleating lazily, the creak of baskets being lifted. Afterward, they rest. The heat of the day is at its peak. Casey lies on his side with one arm under his head, his eyes half closed, listening to the hum of insects in the garden. Everything slows. Time is a smooth river. Later in the afternoon, the village begins to stir again. The heat fades slightly, and the breeze returns, carrying the scent of water and flowers. In the shaded lane behind the house, Nanu helps her mother with the loom. They weave linen from flax fibers soaked in the river for days, then spun with hand-carved spindles. Each thread passes slowly through calloused fingers, guided by rhythm and memory. The cloth they make is light and smooth, perfect for dresses, head wraps, or fishnets. Next door, an old woman tends to dye pots, boiling river plants to color cloth in pale ochres, soft greens, and gentle blues. She hums while she works, her arms stained with the colors of the Nile. Further along, children gather in a circle to play a game with pebbles, tossing them into the air and catching them on the backs of their hands. They laugh, argue softly, then begin again. Everything feels unhurried. As the sun leans lower in the sky, shadows stretch across the ground, cool and long. As the afternoon sun begins to soften, a low murmur rises from the riverside. The fish market is waking. Each evening, traders and villagers gather on the shaded bank to share and exchange the day's catch. Woven mats are unrolled on the ground, and baskets of fish are lined up carefully, tilapia, perch, river eels, and tiny sprats, arranged like glinting treasure. Casey brings his basket and takes his usual spot near the edge, where the reeds whisper softly in the breeze. There is no shouting here, no bargaining. Only quiet voices and gentle gestures, familiar neighbors exchanging fish for onions, lentils, and garlic. A man offers a spool of linen thread. Another offers a small pouch of dried dates, dark and sticky and sweet. Children carry goods from one mat to another. A girl balances a clay jug on her head as she walks barefoot, her little brother following behind, dragging a string toy carved like a crocodile. Laughter is soft, like leaves brushing in the wind. A woman plays a small flute while she waits for her husband to return from the water. The music drifts like smoke above the heads of the gathering, curling into the amber sky. Later, back at the house, Casey sits with his grandfather beneath the edge of the courtyard roof, where an old fishing net is spread between wooden pegs. Together, they mend the holes left by wriggling fish and tangled weeds. The grandfather's fingers are slower now, but his knots are perfect, tight, neat, and strong. He hums while he works, and Casey listens to the same old songs he's heard since he was small. Sometimes, his grandfather pauses to tell a story, softly, almost in a whisper. Of the time he caught a fish longer than his arm. Or the time he fell asleep on the river and drifted all the way to the next village, waking only when a heron pecked his forehead. or how the fish once vanished for days, until the priest threw a handful of barley into the Nile and prayed for their return. These stories are not told to boast. They are simply part of the day, folded into the slow rhythm of tying knots and weaving flax. The sun is low now, casting golden rays that filter through the reed fence, painting stripes across the wall. The air smells of drying grass and the last heat of the earth. The light fades. A thin curl of smoke rises from the low fire as Casey's mother prepares the evening meal. Tonight, it is grilled fish, seasoned with salt, pepper leaf, and crushed fenugreek. She lays the fillets gently on flat stones near the fire, where they sizzle quietly, filling the courtyard with a rich, savory scent. Boiled lentils, fresh cucumber slices, and bread baked earlier in the day complete the meal. The family eats together as the sky changes, first golden, then rose, then the soft indigo of evening. There is laughter. Nanu tries to count the stars as they appear one by one. Casey offers a bit of his fish to the sleepy dog curled beside a bench. A neighbor stops by with a jar of fig preserves and stays to share a bowl of lentils. Fireflies blink above the garden wall. The conversation is low and gentle, and every now and then, the group falls into peaceful silence. The Nile hums softly in the distance. Evening settles like a soft blanket over the village. When the meal is done, and the fire has burned low, the family prepares for sleep. Casey lays a woven mat near the courtyard wall, where the breeze is coolest. Nanu curls up beside their mother, her head resting on a folded linen cloth. The stars stretch overhead in slow, silent brilliance. No one speaks now. Only the soft rustle of night birds, the chirp of insects, and the occasional distant croak of a frog in the reeds. Casey closes his eyes. He imagines the river flowing forever, carrying boats, stories, and songs into the future. Somewhere, another boy just like him is casting his net into the same water, beneath the same moon, beneath the same stars. And the Nile keeps moving. Slow, ancient, and full of dreams. Sleep comes gently. The day has ended. And tomorrow, the river will rise again. It is the first day of the new lunar week, a day the villagers often mark with small rituals and quiet visits to the tiny temple nestled near the marshes. The temple is not grand, not made of stone or towering columns, but it is old, and deeply respected. Just a few dozen paces beyond the edge of the village, tucked beneath a broad-leaved sycamore, it stands, a small shrine of mud brick and sun-dried clay. Whitewashed with chalk, its surface glows softly in the morning light. Symbols of fish, river birds, and papyrus are painted along the walls in faded blue and red pigments, refreshed by the hands of elder priestesses each year. Casey walks with his mother and sister down the narrow path toward it. He carries a pouch of dried fish and a cluster of wild lotus flowers, simple offerings of gratitude. Others pass him in silence, carrying their own bundles, reeds, herbs, carved charms, or tiny amulets of clay shaped like cats or eyes. They arrive at the temple just after sunrise. A single priestess stands near the doorway, her linen robe faintly perfumed with frankincense. Her hair is braided with bits of shell and lapis-colored beads. She smiles gently, raising her hand in welcome. Inside the temple, the air is cool and still. No torches burn here, only the filtered light from a high opening in the roof, where dust and birds occasionally pass. At the center of the space is a small stone table, smooth from centuries of touch. Here rests a figurine of Hapi, the Nile god, carved from river stone. His round belly and flowing beard represent abundance and nourishment. At his feet lies a shallow bowl of river water, changed each morning by the priestess. Casey kneels and places his offerings beside the others. He whispers a short prayer, not asking for riches or miracles, but for balance, for the river to continue flowing, for the fish to remain, for the village to stay whole. The priestess sings a short chant in a voice like wind through reeds. And for a long moment, nothing moves. It is as though the whole world has paused, holding its breath with the river. Then Casey stands, steps back into the sunlight, and feels something quiet stir in his chest. A sense of calm, of belonging, of something older than memory, flowing always just beneath the surface. After the temple visit, life in the village resumes its gentle pace. Casey, finished with his morning ritual, makes his way through the narrow footpaths that wind between homes and workshops. The village is built organically, no grid or plan, just one house leading to another, shaped by the terrain and the flow of the river. Small fences of woven reed divide spaces, while clay jars and stacked stones mark garden edges. He pauses near the potter's yard. Here, under a stretched canopy of papyrus mats, the potters work the river's clay, thick, heavy, and dark. The air smells of wet earth and smoke, and the sound of wheels turning is soft and rhythmic, like a lullaby spun in slow circles. Casey watches as old Meru, the village potter, leans over his wheel. His hands are steady, strong. He shapes the clay with care, guiding it upward until it becomes a smooth vessel with thin, elegant sides. His fingers move like they've done this 1,000 times before, and maybe they have. Beside him, small pots sit drying in the sun, cups, bowls, water jars, all arranged in neat rows on flat wooden slats. Some are plain, others painted with delicate lines or stylized birds. A younger woman, Meru's daughter Tia, is kneeling beside the kiln. She tends a fire that smolders quietly beneath a low dome of brick and ash. She adds straw and bits of old linen, keeping the temperature steady. The kiln itself is simple, but powerful. It is fed with crushed limestone and acacia wood, and over the course of a day, it will bake dozens of vessels, turning soft clay into durable beauty. Casey greets them both. Meru nods without looking up. Tia offers him a freshly fired cup, still warm in her hands, and smiles. Further along the path, he hears the sharp tap of copper tools in the metal worker's hut. A young man named Neb is hammering a fish hook into shape, bending bronze wire around a stone anvil. Next door, a basket weaver ties the final knot in a flat fish trap made from palm ribs and rope. All around, the village breathes with purpose. Each hand has a task. Each day has a rhythm. And every sound, the wheel turning, the fire crackling, the children's laughter, blends into a song the village has sung for generations. Later in the day, as the shadows begin to stretch across the ground and the air cools just slightly, Casey decides to visit the gardens beyond the village. These are not gardens in the modern sense, no rows of flowers in perfect beds, but woven patches of cultivated earth tucked between reeds and groves of palms. They belong to the community. Everyone plants something here. Some grow herbs, mint, coriander, chamomile. Others raise vegetables, onions, leeks, lentils, chickpeas, squash. Some plots are planted with river greens, wild-growing edible plants that thrive near the marshes and can be used in stews or ground into paste. Casey walks slowly, his feet crunching softly on dry paths of packed soil. He greets an elderly woman crouching near a patch of okra, her hands muddy, her smile warm. She shows him a cucumber as long as her arm and laughs at its shape. Nearby, a group of boys chase frogs near a narrow stream. Their clothes are wet, their faces bright. One of them has a woven basket and hopes to catch a small turtle. At the far edge of the garden, the marshland begins. Here the papyrus grows tall, so tall that it towers above Casey's head. its heads swaying and rustling like dry silk in the wind. Birds dart between the stalks, warblers, herons, and river kingfishers. A pair of ibises glide overhead, their wings casting fleeting shadows on the earth below. Casey stops here for a moment and breathes deeply. The air is full of scents, fresh mud, sweet grass, cool water. In the distance, he hears the soft lowing of cattle. Some families keep a cow or two, tethered near the gardens, their bells ringing lazily in the breeze. Milk is a treasure, not always plentiful, but enough for mixing with honey or softening a barley cake. As the light fades and the river begins to reflect the blush of sunset once again, Casey turns to walk home, his hand still carrying the smell of earth and leaves. The village behind him is slowly settling for evening. Smoke drifts upward. Voices grow quieter. And the river, always the river, flows beside it all, watching, remembering. Every few days, villagers come to visit the river woman. She lives just beyond the last row of homes, near the bend of the river where the water flows slowest, thick with lily pads and soft silt. Her name is Tammary, though most simply call her Mother of the Mud. She is neither priestess nor healer in any formal sense, but people trust her wisdom, the kind that comes from years spent observing wind, water, and illness. Her hut is shaded by palms, its walls pressed with crushed river shells, and inside hangs the scent of dried marigold, mint, and wood ash. Casey's mother walks there today with a bundle of fish bones and an aching knee. Tammary welcomes her with a nod and gestures toward a mat beneath the open roof. She speaks little but watches carefully, her eyes following every movement like the tide watches a boat. She hums softly while mixing a clay poultice, Nile mud blended with oil, crushed flax seed, and the powder of ground hibiscus root. The paste is warm, earthy, and smells faintly metallic. As the river woman applies it to the mother's knee, she tells a story of a time long ago when the Nile ran dry for 3 days, and a girl walked barefoot to the source, singing until the waters returned. Her voice was cracked by sun, her feet bled from stone, but she did not stop. It's not just medicine. It's memory. When the poultice is set, Tammary offers a cup of warm barley tea, and silence returns. The birds sing, the reeds sway, and the river keeps breathing. That evening, the village gathers in the central square, a wide, open space near the fig tree, where the ground is smooth and swept, and smoke from nearby ovens curls like ribbon through the dusk. It is not a festival night, no grand occasion, just a common evening, and yet, someone begins to sing. It starts softly. A woman sitting on a low stool taps a shallow hand drum, slow, hollow beats that echo the rhythm of distant thunder. A second joins her with a reed flute, its voice high and wandering like wind brushing tall grass. Children begin to clap. A few elders sway from side to side. Then comes the rain song. It is old, so old no one remembers where it began, sung not to beg for rain, but to thank it in advance, to speak to the clouds in a language older than words, a gentle, repetitive tune passed through generations like the weaving of baskets or the shaping of bread. Come gently, O sky. Wash our jars and roots. Lift the dust from our homes. Sing us to sleep in your silver arms. The words are always the same. The melody never changes. But the feeling it brings, of community, of hope, of surrender to something greater, grows stronger each time. Casey sits with his family on a mat spread across the earth. He watches the hands beating the drum, the soft sway of heads, the flicker of firelight on clay pots and dark eyes. And for a moment, time is wide and quiet. There is only music. and sky. After the music ends, the villagers do not scatter quickly. They sit in clusters, some speaking softly, others merely leaning back to watch the stars emerge from the velvet sky. In one corner, an old man roasts small kernels of barley over glowing coals. They pop and crack, and the smell drifts across the square, mixing with sweet date smoke and cooling earth. Casey helps carry a jar of water from the river to refill the family's clay jug. He moves slowly now, sleepiness beginning to pull at his arms. He passes a group of girls braiding each other's hair by lamplight, their fingers fast and nimble. He sees a mother swaying gently with a baby tucked to her chest. He hears someone reciting a story in the old language, a tale of how the moon got its scar, or why frogs sing louder on warm nights. Back home, his sister Nanu draws symbols in the dirt with a stick, not words, just patterns she finds comforting. Their mother sprinkles a ring of powder dash around the fire, keeping the embers safe through the night. They eat one last piece of bread, dipped in fig jam, and wash their hands in a shallow bowl of rose-scented water. Then the lamps are blown out, one by one. And the courtyard becomes a pool of shadows and quiet breath. Casey lies down on his mat, the stars above like tiny bowls of gold, and listens to the river whispering nearby. The next morning, just as the sky begins to shift from charcoal to pale blue, Casey wakes to the low sound of paddles, slow, steady splashes cutting through the stillness. A boat is approaching. Not a village boat, those are shorter, narrower, made for quick river turns. This one is longer, flatter, with a canopy stretched across its middle, and bundles of wrapped cloth tied to its deck. A trader's boat. It moves like a shadow across the river's face, guided by two oarsmen at the rear, and a young woman at the front holding a long pole to test the river's depth. The village stirs gently. Not in alarm, but in welcome. Visitors are rare, but not unwelcome. By the time Casey reaches the water's edge, a small group has gathered. The elders greet the trader, a thin, sun-browned man with bright eyes and a dust-covered cloak. He bows deeply, offers a gift of dried figs and a small carved amulet, and is invited to sit beneath the shade of the largest tree. His voice is soft but practiced, the voice of a man who has told the same stories in many places. He speaks of a city far upriver where stone temples rise beside flower markets, and streets echo with music and dancing. He shows beads made from foreign glass, painted charms shaped like birds, and oils with smells unlike anything the villagers have known, spiced with cinnamon and resin and something like crushed flowers after rain. The children gather closest, eyes wide. Casey listens too, smiling faintly, but his thoughts drift not to the foreign cities, but to how the trader moves, how his hands never stop weaving small knots in a cord of leather, how his feet are always positioned to leave. Like the river, always moving. But Casey belongs to this bend of the river. He knows the names of the frogs, the seasons of the reeds, the hum of the boats at night. And while the stories of other places are sweet, he knows the sweetness of silence, too. Later in the morning, after the trader has shared his stories and set off downstream again, life returns to its gentle rhythm. In one corner of the village, near a flat patch of shaded ground, several children gather in a half-circle around a woman drawing in the sand. Her name is Neferu. She is not called a teacher, but she teaches nonetheless. With a stick in one hand and a quiet, strong voice, she shows them letters drawn into the earth. Simple curves. Tiny birds. Coiled snakes. She teaches them to see the world in symbols, the way the word for river curls like a wave, and the word for home is built like a child's bed. Casey's sister, Nanu, sits cross-legged in front, her face serious. Her small fingers trace the shapes in the sand, then pause, then try again. Learning is slow here, but deep. There is no rush. No noise. Only the sound of the stick sliding across sand, and the murmured repetition of symbols by the children. After writing, Neferu begins to tell stories, not from scrolls, but from memory. Of how cats were first invited into homes to guard grain. Of why the owl is wise. Of how the stars follow the river and protect the boats below. Nanu listens, wide-eyed. Learning here is not only letters and numbers, but values, patience, observation, reverence for the past. Later, Neferu takes the children to the marsh edge and shows them how to recognize the shapes of bird tracks, how to judge the height of the water by the pattern of the reeds. Casey watches from a distance, smiling. He knows the river will shape his sister, just as it shaped him. That night, long after the lamps have dimmed and most of the village has curled into quiet sleep, Casey remains awake. Sometimes he cannot sleep right away. He lies still on his mat, eyes open, watching the slow drift of stars across the sky. The sounds of the night are many, but none of them sharp or frightening. They are soft, layered, like threads in a blanket. A frog thumps in the garden wall. An nightjar calls from beyond the papyrus. A dog breathes heavily near the fire pit, chasing something in his dreams. Casey rises and walks quietly to the edge of the water. He does not bring a torch. The moon is full tonight, and the river glows like brushed silver. There are fish below, still moving, slower now, but constant. Just as the moon glides above, the fish glide below. He sits on the dock with his feet dangling over the side. He listens. There is something sacred in the way the river sounds at night. A pulse. A breath. Not speech, but something close, something the villagers do not need to explain, because they all feel it. The river is alive. Not like a man or a beast, but as a keeper, ancient, watching, generous when honored and dangerous when disrespected. Casey cups his hands and scoops a little water. He lets it drip slowly between his fingers, offering it back with a soft whisper. He does not know why he does it. Only that he has always done it. That his father did it, and his grandfather, and that maybe, somewhere upriver, another boy is doing the same thing now, whispering into the moonlight and giving thanks with water. There is a time, just before true sleep takes over, when the body remains awake. But the thoughts begin to float. Casey lies on the mat next to his sister. The fire has long gone out. The air is warm but no longer heavy, and a thin breeze drifts through the open courtyard. His mother hums softly, not a song, exactly, but a low note that repeats. A tune she hums when she thinks no one is listening. A song with no name, passed from her mother, and hers before that. It sounds like weaving. It sounds like dusk pressed into cloth. It sounds like a memory that has never left. The stars above are crisp now, as if the night sky has settled into place and will remain undisturbed until morning. Somewhere, someone turns in their sleep. A clay cup clinks gently as it's nudged by a foot. The village is still, but not empty. Even in sleep, it breathes. Even in sleep, it remembers. And beneath all of it, the straw roofs, the drifting ash, the moon shadows, the Nile still flows. Always. A breath beneath the land. Casey's mind wanders, to the trader's stories, to the river woman's clay, to the way his sister drew letters in the sand. He does not know what the future holds. He doesn't think about it much. For now, there is the shape of the wind on his face. the scent of warm earth, the murmur of frogs in the reeds, and the knowledge that, for as long as he can remember, and for as long as his family will remain here, the village will keep rising, sleeping, drifting, living. And when he dreams, it is not of far-off temples. It is of home. And now, let us leave them here. Let us gently step back from the village, barefoot, careful not to wake the sleeping dogs or the fishermen curled in their boats. Let us walk once more by the edge of the river, where the lilies close their petals, and the reeds lean toward each other like sleeping friends. Even the moon has grown quiet now. The world has hushed its voice. You can almost feel the rhythm of the water under your feet, as if the land itself is rocking gently, like a cradle. Close your eyes. Breathe with the river. This place, this ancient, humble village, it does not exist in just one time. It lingers. In the memory of water. In the wind moving through fig leaves. In every small act of daily love, the kneading of bread, the casting of a net, the sweeping of a courtyard. It lives in the hush of the early dawn. And in the dreams of those who remember it. So now, let go. Let the river carry you. Flow down the slow current of still thoughts. Feel the stars above, scattered like warm grains of sand across the sky. You are safe here. You are far from hurry, far from sound, far from all the things that pull and tug. Here, there is only this moment. The hush of history. The breath of the Nile. And the slow, gentle rhythm of rest. Sleep now. Sleep gently. Sleep fully. Let the dreaming river carry you the rest of the way. Good night.